This is the River Thames as you've never experienced it. Underneath the water, there's a thriving ecosystem, rich with diverse sounds of life. But further along the Thames, into central London, it starts to sound more like this. The river is a sound installation at the Natural History Museum, composed entirely of sounds recorded under the surface of the Thames. It gives us the chance to dive under the Thames and listen to the world underneath. Jana Winderen is the artist who recorded the sounds for the river installation.
We tend to kind of go to the water and loving to be underwater, but we don't necessarily know the influence we have of the sound that we are creating on the creatures that live underwater. And I was hoping to then engage people and trigger the curiosity of people to know more about the living creatures that are in the river as well, that we are sharing with so close to us. You know, they are just like centimeters away, but we know very little about who they are, you know.
Tony Myatt is a spatial audio expert who collaborated with Jana to bring her recordings to life in the river.
Sound is a super important factor in the ecology of underwater environments and is very important for various animals, not only to find mates, communicate with their family members, but also to find food and to understand the environment that they live in.
Hi, it's nice to meet you. I'm Sophie.
Hi, Paolo.
Good to meet you, thank you. Away from the hordes of visitors in the galleries, I'm behind the scenes at the Natural History Museum with exhibition curator Paolo Cocco.
The goal of this program that goes beyond the exhibitions and beyond the events, it's a combination of multiple different activities and outreach about addressing the climate crisis and try to discuss with our visitors the way the scientists are trying to find solution to it. So it's about taking this very dreadful subject and show where concrete hope lies.
For the river, I recorded all sounds underwater with hydrophones from the source to the estuary over different trips over a year before the opening of the composition. I use very sensitive hydrophones that you put on the body of an instrument, for example, to pick up the vibration of the material it is in contact with. So these are very sensitive and respond to a large frequency spectrum, like right above what we can hear to under the frequencies we can hear, from ultrasound to through the audible spectrum into infrasound.
The result is a soundscape unlike anything most of us have ever heard, and which wraps around you as you move around the room. Tony explained how he used sound design in the installation.
My approach to spatial audio is to try and work on audio production and reproduction technologies that would effectively produce a continuous bubble of sound all the way around you that is seamless, that isn't really based in a loudspeaker, but allows sounds to be projected from anywhere within three-dimensional space. So spatial audio is an attempt to produce something that's closer to normal perception of sound in space, rather than something mediated by lots of loudspeakers, although many loudspeakers are involved to do this. Often the best seat in the house is the very central seat, and one is supposed to be able to focus on the spatial audio by being absolutely still and stationary, and that's quite contrary to what I discovered was humans' interaction with the world and the way in which they try and gather more information about the spaces they're in, which is constantly to move or reorient ahead or to change their orientation. And I think if you've got an environment that supports that, then it becomes engaging for people. And I think also, the extraordinary sounds that exist underwater, which most people are unfamiliar with, is also a really big factor in making people interested in the work. So I think in part it's to do with engaging people and having them enveloped by all these sounds, but also I think it's an extraordinary sound world that very few people are familiar with.
The sounds in the installation range from the familiar to the completely unexpected.
One thing that I would say is that if one is expecting a white noise kind of experience or a spa experience, that's not necessarily what they're going to find in there. There are sounds of planes and the Thames clipper and traffic, as well as the sound of bubbles and shrimps snapping their claws and curious fish tapping on a microphone. In that sense, it's much more complex, much wider in scope than what one would expect, if there is such a thing as an expectation.
While the sound at the surface of the Thames seems harmless, the sound pollution that we can hear in the river reminds us how much sound affects underwater environments.
We must get everybody together and listening to all the different voices, from the creatures living that we're sharing the planet with, to each other. And we just have to get together around the same table and find ways to get into the right direction.
There's definitely a message in this exhibition about the importance of sound in nature, in the natural world, and in our world more generally. And the fact that we are drowning in noise and how that has a significant impact. So appreciating the beauty on one hand, and on the other hand, appreciating that this beauty is at risk.